Millionaire's cold decision, shattered by a child's voice. True life-changing story. The city skyline shimmered under the early morning sun as Ethan Blackwood stepped out of his black limousine. His polished shoes echoed across the marble lobby of Blackwood Enterprises, a symbol of everything he had built with ruthless precision. At 45, Ethan was a self-made millionaire, known as much for his empire as for the cold way he ran it. He didn't exchange pleasantries, didn't slow down for anyone, and certainly didn't forgive mistakes. This Monday morning was no different. Coffee in hand, eyes sharp, he walked through the office halls like a general inspecting his troops. But as he turned into the executive hallway, his pace halted. There, hunched over the glossy floor, was Maria, the company janitor, scrubbing tiles with worn gloves and a weary back. His gaze dropped to his gold watch. 7:15 a.m. She was supposed to be done by now. 15 minutes late, that was all he needed. He didn't ask why. He didn't care. Rules were rules. Without hesitation, he pressed the wall intercom. "Get HR. Janitor Maria. Terminate her by end of day," he said, voice clipped and cold. Maria didn't react. Whether she heard him or not, she didn't stop. Her focus stayed on the floor, as if she knew arguing wouldn't matter. And Ethan, he didn't see the exhaustion in her posture, didn't notice her shoes patched at the soles, didn't know she'd worked every single day for 5 years without a single call-off. All he saw was a rule broken. And that, in his world, meant removal. He returned to his glass office, towering over the city, sipping the coffee he liked cold and bitter, just like his decisions. Somewhere down the corridor, Maria kept cleaning, unaware that her life was being dismantled by a man who'd never even asked her name. But this day was not done with Ethan Blackwood. Though he didn't know it yet, everything he thought he understood about rules, success, and humanity was about to be shattered. Not by a competitor, not by a scandal, but by a child's voice he hadn't yet heard. The bitter coffee was halfway to Ethan's lips when a quiet knock tapped against the heavy glass door of his office. He didn't look up at first, assumed it was HR coming to confirm the termination order. "Come in," he said flatly, his voice still cold from the decision he'd made minutes ago. But the door didn't swing open with corporate confidence. Instead, it creaked slowly. Tiny footsteps pattered across the room like whispers. Ethan finally looked up and froze. Standing in front of his massive desk, barely tall enough to see over it, was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7. Her dress was faded and fraying at the hem, once pink, now pale from too many washes. In her small arms, she clutched a worn teddy bear, the stitching on its leg barely holding. Her shoes didn't match. Her socks sagged around her ankles, but her eyes, wide, innocent, and brave, met his without flinching. "I'm sorry to bother you, sir," she said, voice soft but steady. "But please don't fire my mommy." Ethan blinked. The room suddenly felt colder. He stared at the girl, unsure if this was real. "Excuse me?" he asked, voice quieter than before. The girl stepped forward, the teddy bear held tighter. "My name is Luna. My mommy is Maria. She cleans the floor every day. You told someone to fire her, didn't you?" Ethan's mouth opened, but nothing came out. How did she get in? Where was security? Why was a child speaking to him like this? "She was late today because of me," Luna continued, her tone free of panic, but filled with something deeper. Guilt. "I was sick this morning. I had a fever. Mommy stayed with me until I felt better. She wrapped me in her jacket and made me promise not to cry." Ethan sat back, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. Luna didn't stop. She didn't eat anything today. She only had a little bit of money, and she used it to buy my medicine. She always does that. She says she'll eat after I'm okay. Her voice trembled slightly, but she straightened her shoulders. She didn't want to be late, but the bus was full, and we missed the first one. Ethan looked at the child, still unsure whether he should speak, stand, or call someone. His chest felt strange, heavy. "Why are you telling me this?" he finally asked. Luna hesitated. "Because Mommy won't. She's too proud. She says we should never beg." A pause. "But I'm not begging. I'm just telling you, she's trying. She's really trying." Ethan shifted in his chair. The little girl's eyes hadn't left his. She wasn't crying. She wasn't yelling. She was just telling the truth, in the only way a child could. "I saw her face when she got your message," Luna added, her voice even softer now. "She didn't say anything, but she looked like her heart stopped." The office was silent. No typing, no footsteps in the hallway. Just the hum of the air conditioner and the sound of a little girl standing up for her mother. "Please don't fire her," Luna whispered. "We don't have anywhere else to go." The teddy bear's paw brushed the edge of Ethan's desk as she clutched it tighter. "I'll be better. I won't get sick again. I promise." Ethan looked at her, eyes narrowed. Not in anger, but confusion. He had negotiated billion-dollar contracts, crushed rivals, and fired executives without blinking. But he didn't know what to do with this moment. His mouth was dry. His mind raced. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan Blackwood felt something he didn't recognize: shame. Ethan's eyes stayed locked on Luna as the silence thickened around them, suffocating and unfamiliar. Her words had ended, but the echoes remained, soft, powerful, undeniable. She shifted her weight slightly, gripping her teddy bear tighter, as if drawing courage from its frayed limbs. The golden morning light that streamed into the office caught her face just right, and Ethan could see the glassiness in her eyes. Still, she refused to let the tears fall. "She always tells me," she said, after a long pause, her voice barely above a whisper, "that one day we'll have a house with windows that don't leak. She says she'll hang blue curtains. I like blue." Her eyes glanced down at her shoes, and then back up at him, blinking quickly. "But if she loses this job, we might have to sleep in the park again. We've done it before." The words cut deeper than Ethan expected. Park. Again. That wasn't exaggeration. It was experience. He leaned slightly forward in his chair, but still said nothing. Luna, with childlike honesty, wasn't waiting for approval or pity. She just needed to be heard. "She's the best mommy," she continued, a small smile flickering before fading. "She braids my hair, even when she's tired. She sings me to sleep, even when her voice is gone. She never cries where I can see." Her small hand brushed the desk, as if steadying herself. "She doesn't complain, not even when she's hurting, not even when it rains inside our room." Ethan blinked, slowly. He didn't want to imagine what that meant. But Luna wasn't done. "I know she's proud. She'd be mad if she knew I came here. She'd say I should never bother a boss." Her gaze sharpened slightly. "Please don't tell her. I didn't know what else to do." Her lips pressed together to stop them from trembling. "I thought maybe if someone knew, they'd see her." And just like that, Ethan realized the weight of what was unfolding. A child, had walked alone into the tallest office in a skyscraper, just to tell the truth. Not for attention, not to beg, but because no one else would. And she didn't ask for money, not help, just mercy. He opened his mouth, tried to speak, but the words stuck in his throat. A lump had formed there, thick and unfamiliar. He wasn't used to it, wasn't prepared. He had faced angry investors, corporate sabotage, public backlash, but nothing had ever disarmed him like the soft voice of a little girl speaking gently about rain-soaked ceilings and quiet sacrifices. He noticed the teddy bear again. Its ear was stitched with blue thread, the kind of fix a mother makes with tired hands. For a child who still believes, broken things are worth saving. His fingers tightened slightly around the edge of his desk. Luna looked around the office once, at the high shelves, the gleaming awards, the city view through the glass. "It's really big in here," she said softly. "I bet your windows don't leak." Ethan felt something shift, slowly, deeply, like a tectonic plate he hadn't known existed. For years he had told himself emotions were distractions and empathy was dangerous. But now, face to face with a child who still believed in kindness despite having every reason not to, he was left with nothing but silence. His rules, his pride, his power, they all seemed so small in this moment. Luna looked up at him once more. "I have to go now. Mommy will be looking for me. She doesn't like it when I wander. But I just wanted you to know." She turned slowly, taking one step toward the door, then stopped. "Even if you still fire her, thank you for listening." Her voice cracked just slightly, then she walked to the door, her small figure retreating into the hallway. Ethan didn't stop her, couldn't. He sat there, still and stunned, watching the door close behind her. And for the first time in years, he realized he didn't feel like a CEO. He just felt human. Ethan remained in his chair long after Luna disappeared through the door. The office, usually buzzing with notifications and movement, felt still, heavy. He glanced at the intercom, at the unfinished termination notice still pulled up on his screen, and slowly shut his laptop without touching it. He stood, his movements unsure for once, and stepped into the hallway. At the far end, he saw her, Luna, skipping gently, teddy bear in hand, unaware of the weight she had dropped into his chest. Ethan didn't announce himself. He followed at a distance, footsteps quiet on the polished floor. His phone buzzed in his pocket, ignored. The usual efficiency in his step was gone. Each stride felt slower, more cautious, as though he was walking through a world he hadn't taken time to see until now. When Luna reached the lobby, Maria was waiting near the exit, concern etched across her face. Her eyes scanned the room nervously until they landed on her daughter. "Luna!" Maria dropped to her knees, wrapping the child in a tight hug. She exhaled relief into her daughter's hair, her hands trembling slightly as they cupped Luna's cheeks. "Where were you, baby? You can't just disappear like that." Luna mumbled something too low for Ethan to hear. Maria smiled weakly, her exhaustion clear. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand. The dark circles under her eyes, more noticeable now, in the sunlight. Ethan watched from a corner, unnoticed. For once, he didn't want to be seen. He didn't want to interrupt. He just watched. Later that evening, Ethan sat in the back seat of his sleek black car, parked across the street from a decaying apartment building. The paint on the exterior had peeled. The lights in the hallway flickered. His driver waited silently, unsure why the boss hadn't moved in 10 minutes. Through the dusty window on the third floor, Ethan saw them again. Luna sat at a small, wobbly table, swinging her legs as Maria placed two bowls in front of them. One was full, one was half. Maria pushed the full one toward her daughter with a smile. Luna didn't hesitate. She picked up her spoon and started eating, chattering excitedly about something that made her giggle. Maria listened with a tired but genuine smile. Then Ethan noticed Maria didn't touch her own food. She simply leaned her elbow on the table, rested her face in her palm, and smiled at her daughter between small sips of water. The lights inside flickered once. A cold breeze passed through Ethan's open window, but he didn't roll it up. He was too focused. The woman he'd nearly fired, without a second thought, was now sitting across from her daughter, surviving on love and scraps, giving more than she had, and asking for nothing in return. At one point, Luna reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled candy wrapper. She placed it on the table like it was treasure, and Maria laughed. Really laughed. The kind of laugh that rises from deep weariness but lands in joy. They leaned in close, heads together, sharing a story he couldn't hear, one that didn't need much to be magical. And something inside Ethan shifted. He had seen power plays, boardroom battles, and calculated loyalty, but this was something purer, real, stronger than any empire. Maria didn't speak in business terms. She didn't dress in luxury or dine at rooftops. But in that dim apartment, she had given her daughter something he couldn't buy with all his wealth: warmth, safety, the sound of laughter in broken places. Ethan felt a weight behind his ribs he hadn't known was missing. Something warm and strange. The CEO, once proud of his cold instincts, now found himself gripped by something far less convenient: compassion. He leaned back in the seat, eyes still fixed on the window. The car around him was silent. His driver said nothing. And for the first time in years, Ethan Blackwood didn't feel like the one looking down at the world. He felt like someone being shown it for the first time. The sun rose quietly over the city, casting soft orange light across the cracked sidewalks and weary rooftops. Maria was already up, dressed in her usual faded uniform, tying her hair back into a low bun with practiced hands. The silence of the early morning was broken only by the clink of a spoon in a chipped teacup and the soft shuffle of Luna sleeping on the couch, wrapped in her mother's old jacket. As Maria opened the door to leave, she noticed a large white envelope tucked between the rusted gate and the door frame. Her brows furrowed. It was thick, official-looking, stamped with the seal of Blackwood Enterprises. Her heart skipped. Her fingers reached slowly, carefully, as if the paper might burn. She held it with both hands, staring at her name, written neatly across the front. The weight of it in her palm told her it wasn't just a memo. It was something more. Her mind filled instantly with dread. Was it her final notice? Did they decide to fire her after all? Her hands began to tremble. She didn't want to open it. Not in front of Luna. Not now. But her fingers moved on their own, slipping under the edge of the flap. Inside was a folded letter, clean, crisp, and typed. She took a deep breath, then read. Her eyes scanned the first few lines and stopped. They didn't say what she thought they would. They didn't say, "We regret to inform you." They didn't mention termination. Instead, the words struck her like a warm gust of wind. After a cold winter, "Dear Maria, due to your unwavering dedication, we are promoting you to head of cleaning services. Your salary has been tripled." Maria blinked. Her knees nearly buckled. She clutched the back of the wooden chair beside her to stay upright. Tripled. The words stared back at her. She read it again and again. Sure, she had misunderstood. But there it was. Clear. Undeniable. Her chest rose and fell as emotion surged inside her. Then she continued reading. "Also, please meet me at 4 p.m. There's something I'd like to discuss about your daughter's future. Ethan Blackwood." Tears slipped silently down her cheeks. She tried to speak, But no words came. All the weight she had carried, of doubt, of fear, of silent prayers in the dark, lifted for a moment. Her hands shook as she held the paper close, folding it gently as if it were made of silk. Behind her, Luna stirred. "Mommy," she mumbled, rubbing her eyes. "What's that?" Maria turned, wiping her face quickly with her sleeve. "Just a letter," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. Luna stretched and stood up, still half asleep. She yawned and tiptoed toward her mother, sensing something had changed. "Did someone write us?" Maria nodded, biting her lip to stop it from quivering. She knelt and pulled Luna into a hug so tight, so full, it said everything she couldn't say out loud. Luna looked at her, puzzled, and then smiled. She started spinning in circles, the teddy bear in one hand, the other thrown up in the air. "Yay, we got a letter. A happy letter," she giggled. "Can we get blue curtains now?" Maria laughed through her tears. "Maybe, baby. Maybe we can." She stood slowly, glancing at the clock. There was still work to do, but for once, she didn't feel invisible. For once, someone had seen her. And not just her. Her story, her sacrifice, her strength. The letter rested on the table beside the old cup of tea, now cold but forgotten. Her eyes drifted to the final line again. Something about her daughter's future. 4 p.m. She didn't know what Ethan Blackwood wanted to say, but for the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid to find out. The clock struck 4 as Maria stood just outside the executive suite of Blackwood Enterprises, her hands folded nervously in front of her. Her uniform was freshly washed, her shoes still worn, but neatly polished. Luna had stayed with a neighbor, and Maria had walked here slowly, rehearsing every possible conversation in her head. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. When the door opened, Ethan was already standing. No assistant, no papers on his desk, no coldness in his eyes. Just him, alone, waiting. He gestured gently to the seat across from him. "Please," he said quietly. She hesitated, then sat. The silence between them felt different now, softer. Then, without build-up or preamble, he reached into his drawer and placed something on the desk. A set of house keys, wrapped in a simple blue ribbon. "It's yours," he said. "A home, close to the office, a full year's rent is already paid, and after that, the lease is yours to keep." Maria stared at the keys, unsure if she was dreaming. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. Ethan continued, "There's more." He pulled out a second envelope. "Inside is a letter of scholarship, private school enrollment for Luna. Books, meals, uniforms, all covered, not just this year, every year, through college." Maria's eyes began to blur, her fingers trembling as she reached for the envelope. "Why?" she finally whispered. "Because I was blind," Ethan said simply. "Because I was the kind of man who thought kindness was a flaw. And then your daughter came in and gave me something no board member ever has. Truth." His voice lowered. "I've built skyscrapers, crushed markets, led thousands. But your daughter helped me build something I never had." A heart. Maria's hands covered her mouth, and the tears flowed freely now. Not tears of fear or fatigue, but of something far rarer: relief, gratitude, peace. Ethan stood, slowly walking around the desk. He didn't offer a handshake. Instead, he placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "You're not just part of this company anymore," he said. "You're part of something more." The drive to the new house that evening was quiet. Maria sat beside Luna in the back seat of Ethan's car, keys clutched tightly in her hand. As they pulled up to the small, sun-washed home, Luna's eyes widened. "Is this really ours?" she asked, practically bouncing in her seat. Maria nodded, laughing through her tears. Yes, baby, it's ours. Luna jumped out, racing toward the front steps, spinning in the tiny yard as if it were a kingdom. That night, they unpacked slowly. The house was modest, 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, walls still bare, but to them, it was a castle. And as they sat on the floor, eating dinner from paper plates, a knock came at the door. It was Ethan, holding a box of books for Luna and a bag of groceries. I didn't want to intrude, he said. Just wanted to make sure you had a real meal tonight. Maria smiled, stepping aside to let him in. He didn't look like a CEO anymore, not in that moment. He looked like a man finally learning how to live. As the weeks passed, Ethan visited often, sometimes with supplies, sometimes with stories. He watched Luna grow more confident, more joyful. He saw Maria smile more easily, rest more deeply. She continued working, but now with pride. No longer invisible, no longer afraid. And Luna? She began to dream aloud again. About college, about becoming a doctor, about blue curtains and sunny windows. Ethan listened to every word. Somewhere along the way, he stopped coming as a visitor and started being something more, a mentor, a friend, a part of something real. The cold-hearted millionaire who once fired without blinking was gone. In his place stood a man remade, not by money, not by success, but by the quiet courage of a child who chose to speak when no one else would.